Right, the stage is set. I did a video yesterday previewing England and Germany. I'm making a video now for Belgium and the Netherlands, and tomorrow morning we'll have a video for the 5th to 8th place rankings and what we can expect from that. But the second semi-final, it's a final that I previewed. It's the final that many people had in their minds. It's the final before the final. It's the game that I wanted to see. And in a way, I'm kind of sad that we're getting it before the final, but in another way, that means that England or Germany are making it to the final, and whatever happens is going to be an absolutely incredible game. If it's Germany against the Netherlands, it's a revenge game. If it's England against whomever, they're the ultimate underdogs, and it will be great to see them play in the final. If it's Germany Belgium, that's a great rivalry to have in a final at the European Championships. But let's start with Belgium. So, fairly comfortable win against Russia, 9-2. And there's not really that much to say about it. Belgium were offensively were great. They could have had many more, but defensively, the last game and throughout the tournament, Belgium has shown frailties. They've shown to not be the most sure or the most assured at the back. They conceded 2 against Russia, which they shouldn't have. They probably could have conceded more, to be fair. Against Spain, they went down very early on, and they did climb back, but Spain could have, maybe should have scored more. Spain isn't the Spain that people were expecting them to be, perhaps. They're getting older, they're getting up there in age. And against England, Belgium were completely outplayed in every aspect of the game. And if it wasn't for Van Aert, it would have probably been a much, much higher score for England. So it's interesting to see Belgium having problems. I said that they don't really have any weaknesses, and if anything, I would have expected their defense to be the stronger part of their team, with Van Doren there, the Slover there, Van Asch there, and yet they're giving up many, many, many opportunities. And one way to go at them is just by playing quick, give and go hockey, one-touch hockey. It's something that I mentioned in the preview a few weeks ago when I previewed Belgium for the championship. If you play give and go hockey, if you play quick hockey against them, if you dare to counter, if you dare to push them back, they will give up opportunities. However, I wasn't expecting these kind of problems. Against Russia, I was expecting them to win easily 9-0, 10-0, 11-0, not concede 2 and potentially concede more. Russia had some great opportunities, and Belgium will need to tighten up. Now, their opponents, the Netherlands, I was very, very surprised to see the Netherlands go for it. Billy Bakker looked delighted with the 6th goal. With 8 seconds to go, that changes everything. 8 seconds before the end of the game, we're previewing the Netherlands against England and Germany against Belgium, and it's completely flipped upside down now. And I was very surprised to see that, because on paper, though England have been great this tournament, they have been the feel-good story. They've been great to watch. They have been the best England team that we have seen in years. On paper, they're still the weakest team. Not just on paper, but on the pitch, they are the weakest team. The difference is England has gelled, whilst Belgium has not. And I was very surprised to see the Netherlands go for it. But the thing with the Netherlands is, I just mentioned England has gelled and Belgium has not. The Netherlands hasn't completely gelled either. Yes, they had a comprehensive 6-0 win over Wales, and you could look at it as, okay, the Netherlands has done their job, they're perfectly fine, on to the semi-final they go. But there were moments where controlled, certain passes were missed, easy tap-ins. You think of Herzberger, open goal that he hits onto the player. Now, it's just one instance and it can happen to anyone, but that should always be a goal. Perhaps he isn't yet ready to play at 100% of his capabilities. Maybe he's at 80%, maybe he's at 85%. I would expect that. It's no surprise there, obviously, for any player. But this is not the strongest team. Technically it is, yes. On paper, Belgium and the Netherlands, probably the 2 strongest teams in Europe. But from what they have shown, they both have a few weaknesses. They both have a few moments where the focus goes, where anything can happen. They could lose the ball and concede 2 in the space of 1 minute, or they could get the ball and score 2 in the space of a minute. We've seen that from those two teams at this tournament. They are both equally capable of good and bad. And I honestly don't know who to give the edge to. I said in the final, and in the preview, sorry, that if it was in the final, I would expect Belgium to go through because Belgium would have had to go through Germany, which, in my opinion, is a better scoring team than the Netherlands. But I'm not entirely sure of that now. The Netherlands offensively has looked better than Belgium. Although Belgium scored 9 against Russia, the Netherlands has scored or has created more from open play. Penalty corner wise, they haven't been as good, I would argue. But if you can create more from open play, if you can score from open play, you don't need those penalty corners. And the Netherlands have been good at defending penalty corners. Obviously, not against Germany in those last few minutes, but that happens to everyone. And it was just a moment of insanity from Payman Black. And in interviews, he's admitted to it. It was his fault. He's apologized. They move on. Defensively, the Netherlands have looked better, I would argue. But again, on paper, you never know with guys like Van Doren, with guys like Van Aert. They could turn it on in a moment, and there you have it. They're the winners. If they turn it on, you've got the winners right there. However, the Netherlands have played it very smart, playing 4 at the back with Glenn Schuurman in midfield. He's obviously more defensive-minded, so it's more of a 5 at the back when they need to. He can drop back, midfield drops back a little, the forward drops back a little. They create that defensive block, and then going forward, the ball often goes through Schuurman. He holds the ball up well. He draws defenders out. He distributes it again. So it's a very, very equal game. But I think I'm still going to go with Belgium just because I predicted them in my preview, and I'm not going to change. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw the Netherlands win. The Netherlands have all the quality in the world. They've got the best attacking trio in the world, in my opinion, with Brinkman, Purser, and Koon, or Herzberger, depending on who's playing, or Koon, Herzberger, Brinkman. You can rotate them. They are the best offensive trio in the world, in my opinion. But it's going to be a matter of who can shut the other one down. Taking a lead maybe and then shut it down, or shut it down and nick a late goal. I think they'll go for the kill. I think they will know that it's no good staying back and risking getting that goal against and then having to go forward and then conceding a second and a third potentially. I think they'll go for a kill. I think it will be a very high scoring game, having seen what they have shown so far. At least 6 goals in this game. It could be 4-2, it could be 3-3, and then we go to, I think it's shootouts. I'm not sure. It could be penalty strokes. But I think at least 6 goals. It's going to be a spectacle of a match. It's going to be a classic game. Classic Netherlands-Belgium is going to be absolutely great. If the Netherlands can get their penalty scoring, the penalty corner going, I'm giving the edge to the Netherlands, but they haven't shown that yet. So far, I'm staying with Belgium. So that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video if you've enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you tomorrow morning for the preview of the 5th to 8th place rankings.